Good morning, my fellow yogic travelers. I'm mighty glad to be alive today, and I hope that you are too, as we continue to live, laugh, love, learn, linger, and live the life we love. And don't forget to loaf and lube. All right, so it's story day, the shoemaker and his elves. Once there was a shoemaker. Uh, he and his wife were working their trade, but business was not so good. It came down to have one piece of leather left. And he was so disgusted with his lot that he just like left it on the workbench and went to sleep. But much to his surprise, when he woke up in the morning, there was a brand new pair of shoes, done beautifully, stitched in a way that's even beyond his craft. And he said, "This is amazing." And as he was contemplating this, somebody walked in and said, "Oh, those are the boots I want, and they're the perfect size." So he sold them, and well, what do? You put your money back into resources. So he bought more leather, and he started to lay it out. And then the same thing, he just was tired and he let it go. And then the same thing happened. The next morning, there was a couple of boots and some sandals with craftsmanship that was like out of this world. And of course, as soon as he saw that, people came into the shop and bought it right away. And this kept going on day after day. He'd buy leather, he'd leave it out, and the next day in the morning when he came in, there were all these beautiful shoes. After a while, he and his wife were talking. He said, "Isn't this a little suspicious? Like, where this is coming from?" He says, "Well, listen, why don't we just hang out after we close the shop and we'll watch to see what happens?" So that's what they did. And that evening, when they were waiting, all of a sudden, the window flies open, and in comes two elves, naked as a jaybird, coming onto the table where the leather is, and they're dancing around, having a great old time. Then they get down to work, and then they make these beautiful shoes and boots, and then fly off on a moonbeam, laughing and having a great time. Now the shoemaker and his wife knows what's really happening. So they said, "Oh, listen, we have to thank the elves in some way. You know, they have no clothes, and it's getting to be winter. Why don't we make them little hats, little boots, a little jacket, and then leave it for them?" So that's what they did. And then they left it there on the workbench and they hid. And the next night, the elves came in once again, only in their birthday suit. They danced around, but when they saw the clothes, they were delighted and they fit perfectly. And they put it on, they danced around and jigged like that, and then they flew off. And now they were happy that they made something for the elves. But you know, at that point, the elves didn't come back the next day. In fact, they never came back. But the shoemaker and the wives, they learned a lot by watching how the elves did their craft. And so they just buckled down, got back to work, and they were thriving for the rest of their life. It's a grim story. I think it has to do with the willingness to let go of the magic and get to work yourself. Nonetheless, the first thing I'm always talking about is what do you give your attention to? And there's a part of us that's like a search engine, but almost like a GPS tracking device. I think they used to call one of them Magellan, right? But the thing is, if you program Magellan to where you've been, it already takes you back there. You can't go to what's new by thinking about the old. And you know, those GPS systems, they don't scold you or ask, "How many times have you done this?" They just go to wherever you program them. So, what are you programming in your life? What are you reaching towards? And how you program yourself has a lot to do with what I call being joyful. Now, again, being joyful doesn't mean every single day, every moment you have like a shit-eating grin on your face and like you're happy about everything. You're not concerned about any suffering that's going on in the world. No. The first thing you have to realize is you can't protect your heart. It's already broken. And if you can balance the extrovert in you, which gets fed by social contacts and drained by isolation, with the introvert in you that gets fed by isolation and drained by social contacts, you can make the best of both worlds. Enjoy yourself when you're alone and groove with other people, jam with other people when you're together with them. Now, whether or not you believe in the old humors that they used to talk about, if you're the sanguine type and cheerful, the choleric type and angry, melancholic type and sad, or the phlegmatic type and emotionally hard to move, right? That means you're cheerful, you're angry, you're sad, you're numb. Uh, Temperament, to some extent, is innate and hardwired, but it's not your destiny. These tendencies that we all have can be modified, and their expression can be shaped by your own intelligence, by your own warm heartedness, by what you make of your life experiences, and most important, by conscious intention. What do you intend? So, if you're not sure what you intend, I always say, who do you admire? Who are your list of saints? If you walk in your foyer and you have busts on either side, who would be the people whose influences you recognize, qualities of their personality and life that are operative in your psyche? Hmm? Then you know what you're really being drawn to. Then you know the environment that you'll be best to thrive in based on your temperament. And even if it's tough, Joseph Campbell has this great phrase. He says, it's not the agony of the quest, but it's the rapture of the revelation. It's worth it, even if it's difficult. And everyone is going to descend, if they take this path, into the fateful regions where there's both danger and treasure. So I like to say it's like seeking the Holy Grail. Um, the knights determined that it would be shameful for them to go into the forest where there was no way and path as a group. So each one had to go by themselves where there was no way or path. And that's how you find out how you're in your element, by putting yourself in those positions where you face the tests and trials that are unique to you, and you find your own svadharma, your unique way to spirit.